It's Toxic Radio, and 'tis the season for frightening masks, demonic voices, and men in heavy face makeup.
I'll swallow your soul!
And you might even see some people trick-or-treating, too.
Swallow this.
At Toxic Radio, we do Halloween just a little bit harder. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic. Like listening to Toxic Radio?
Goddamn right.
Don't forget, this is the 21st century. Join us in the social media world. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pornhub.
Pornhub?
Nah, just kidding. Or am I? Toxic Radio. Get infected.
Guess what? Toxic Radio is going on a road trip.
Westbound and down, 18-wheeler rolling.
November 7th, we're crossing the river into Philly, and there's gonna be a party. Why a party on a Sunday in November, you may ask? What, are you new here? It's a football tailgate at Lincoln Financial Field for the Birds and Bolts matchup. Come out to see the Toxic Radio crew for fun, prizes, freebies, and shenanigans. Toxic Mike, Super Dave, John Evans, Mr. Entertainment, V. Godfrey, and Gene Walzak from the brand new Birds Deep podcast. Jimmy Page, Nicki Minaj, Martin Sheen, Kim Kardashian, Grover from Sesame Street, Rob Zombie.
Whoa! What the hell was that?
Oh, I don't know. Sorry.
That's it. No more coffee for you.
Fair enough.
So just the people from Toxic Radio, right?
Right. Got it.
Okay, proceed.
And we might even get a special live performance from Supreme de Resurrecta. So join us at noon, Sunday, November 7th in Lot N, right across from Jetro. Don't do your tailgate safe. Do it toxic.
Hungry for Hope Nation, your host, Donnie Hart here. And I am joined by my dazzling co-host. I'm getting used to his face now. He went from guest to guest co-host to now I get to see him every week. Matt Davies is with me.
Well, thank you for having me with you every week, Donnie.
No problem. And we have an awesome guest today, like always. We have an awesome guest. We have her live here at the Toxic Radio studio. We're joined by Suzanne Harrison of Kings Crusade. Hey, Sue.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
I feel like I've had like 5 guests at least mention your name since your name's come up so many times through, just through guests. So many people had a connection with you. Matt's wife had reached out to Kelly. You did some stuff for her brother. Judy, our guest Gabe's brother. You helped Christian. So many people brought you up. It was just like again and again and again.
Aww.
Oh my God. I know who they were talking about before they even said the name. And,
I'm honored.
yeah, so your name comes up a lot from the Hungry for Hope guest and fan base.
Nice.
So it was awesome to finally have you on and get to meet you and stuff. I got to do what was that, on Monday?
Yeah, or the grief group.
Yeah, you did the grief group. I got to check that out just to see, I like to see some of the stuff people do. It was pretty cool. I got to see your mom and your sister in it. Got to bring some of my family and friends.
It was nice.
It really helped some of them. They were just they were really telling me how much just that small group you do groups like that. What, weekly about grief? Yeah,
weekly. Every week we do it on a Monday night, and it's you're a small group of people who have had a tragedy, and it's nice to know that there's other people who understand, because you're in a world all by yourself, really.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about that before the show. Like, people always feel like they're like the only person going through stuff and they can't relate to anybody else. But I feel like when they meet somebody who actually went through that same hell they're going through, or they went through, it's a whole different story. Like when my brother passed, I didn't want to be around anybody unless they went through something like tragic, like their brother dying. Like I wanted nothing to do with them because, they couldn't relate.
Right. It changes you. and your world changes, your circle changes, your network changes, and sadly, you do switch up your groups of who you want to be around, and sometimes you don't want to be around anybody, but the people you do want to be around tend to be ones that you can relate to with similar, life circumstances, life events, or what have you.
Yeah, so obviously you got Kings Crusade, man. It's amazing nonprofit. We're gonna get tons of that, but tell us, tell us about you before the Kings Crusade, before all this amazing work you're doing. You grew up in the area, or?
I didn't actually. I am from Philly, so I went to Archbishop Ryan High School a long, long time ago. I will not say what year I graduated, but many probably already know. And I was the youngest of 3. And my brother was the middle child. My sister was oldest. My brother was 4 years older than me. My sister was 6 years older than me. And I was, my brother and I were very close growing up. I was a tomboy growing up. I liked to do things with my brother. I liked to, have snowball fights with his friends. I loved to, we'd be outside hanging with a group of people, and they would ghost ride bikes. And I always talk about that laughing, like people are like, what is ghost riding a bike? And when you take it and you basically, toss it, put it down a hill, put it down whatever, and, who knows what happened to it. So I did a lot of things that, weren't the things the girls were doing. But, my brother was my buddy. And even as teenagers and growing up, when we were of age to go to clubs and stuff, we went to nightclubs together, and he'd borrow my car all the time. And, we were very close. So I then moved to New Jersey when I was married in 1995, and I've been here ever since. So I do feel that I am a Jersey girl now. I love it here. You couldn't pay me to go back to Philly. I love New Jersey. Absolutely. And I have 2 children. They today are almost 15 years old, and one that just turned 17. So when they were born, I was a stay-at-home mom, and my life was my children. I devoted my time to them. Each of them had a special need. My youngest son had and still has some multiple pretty severe food allergies. So I guess it was around 2006 when he was born, and then 2009 where I really got into advocating for people with food allergies. And I used to chair a national walk for the Philadelphia area for a very big nonprofit, and raised about $100,000 every year. I did a lot of advocacy through there. I was at Great Wolf Lodge training their food and beverage team, and also talking to them about what it's like to be a parent, traveling to resorts with a child who really couldn't have any desserts, couldn't have certain food that was cooked in pans with other, things, certain fryers. You couldn't touch his, things with certain utensils unless they were disinfected. And, it's really, there's a lot more awareness around food allergies today and the severity of it. So I pride myself on really learning how to advocate and how to make a difference and how to be a voice for both of my children and both of their needs, biggest one being food allergies. So, it just kind of was innate in me. Maybe I should have been a teacher. I don't know, but I kind of threw myself into spreading whatever I knew to other people. I've always been that way.
And this was, now you got the nonprofit. This was years before.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been in your blood, helping people, giving them people who don't have a voice, or, people who need somebody to be their voice.
Yes.
It's been a lifelong thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the ghost riding the bikes, did you
Yes.
do any charity work for that, or was that Ghost Riders Anonymous? Or?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't feel bad. When we were growing up, we had Jackass. Too many shopping cart injuries.
Oh my God,
to
I
count.
love Jackass. Yeah, I love Jackass.
I got that.
Shout out to
story.
Brandon Novak, my friend. But yeah, I love, yes, since Jackass's inception, I've always been a big fan too. I have a sick sense of humor.
Yeah, we're not too different. We're just podcasts, but so you talk about growing up in Philly. You sound like you had a great connection with your brother King, and your sister. Your 3 of you are real close.
Yes.
You went out to the clubs and everything. And how did the relationship get when you guys got older? I know King went through some problems. Did you always have that bond?
We did. Even after I was married, he was dating somebody he had 2 children with. And, I've always been somebody who is very nurturing, and I had a fabulous mother and Italian upbringing, and my sister, I lived with her a little bit of time, and I always tell her that between her and my mom, I wanted to be like them. And our big thing was, we gather around food. So my brother loved my cooking, he loved my baking, so I would have him have his girlfriend over, I would cook. And even then, he wasn't married, and even though my husband and I were doing kind of like married couple things, my brother still always wanted to be involved. He wasn't the brother that you heard from once in a while. He wanted to know what was going on in my life. He was just a very, caring, in his blood too. We're kind of all the same. So even as we got older, he had his children. I was very involved in my niece and nephew's life, similar to my sister has 3 children. I didn't have my kids till a little later on, so I threw myself into being the best aunt I could be and being there for them. So we still maintained a great relationship.
I actually met your sister years ago. I didn't know, and I think she was doing charity work back then.
Yes.
We met her through some celebrity boxing events, I think, and and I didn't connect I knew King's story. I didn't put the name together, and then when I was getting you as a guest, I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
Like, this story sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And,
she did. My sister was very big.
Yeah, I knew all of us. She
on
always
Penn
talked about.
Hospital. Yeah, her ovarian cancer.
I met her before King passed, but then even after, I always heard her talking and sharing. So I knew his story really good.
Yes.
And then your mom, I really got to see on the Zoom for the first time, and she was awesome.
Yeah, she was good. She doesn't normally come on a lot on that, but she did great.
She was awesome, and I really think, I invited 2 people who lost kids, and that's the main reason I reached out to you. It was a small group, but I think they got a lot out of it, just hearing another parent who went through that, and
yes.
And, one just happened like 2 years ago, and they're still struggling. So to see somebody who went through maybe a few more years before that, and they can just, I don't know, I feel like people really need that.
Yes.
So that's awesome how you do it. I always love them groups where people helping people.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw a need for that, absolutely, to separate. And I know, I'm jumping ahead, we'll backtrack, but to separate kind of grief from the addiction part of what I do. You need to have a separate for grief because, no matter what people can say, oh, I know, I understand, you don't. Even if your child's still alive, I understand. You mourn them a lot of times when they're alive because you're fearing of getting the phone call. And, but they're still alive. It's absolutely, there's nothing like when they're gone. And I'm not a parent. So, I'm not a parent of, a child that's had an addiction, nor a parent of a child who's lost to it. And I pray that I never know that pain. But they're absolutely, it's not the same, once you're in that group and the club, the fraternity that nobody wants to belong to. Once you join that club one day, you just, it's different. So
it is. It's a odd feeling. Didn't lose a kid to addiction, but my wife and I tried for almost a decade to have kids. When we finally got pregnant, we lost the child.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you find out later on how many people actually go through that, and you're like, I didn't know that. And they're like, it's not a public club, but it is a club.
And that's what they say, when you have a child, it's a blessing and it's a gift because, a gift from God. You don't realize if you are somebody that is able to conceive without a problem, you're blessed because more people, like you said, and people don't talk about it, but from what I learned even on that is that more people actually can't have a harder time. So, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we had actually Matt on as a guest, I always bring it up. I didn't really know his story too much. I just knew a little, and he was a good guy, and he was doing some stuff with nonprofits. So I was like, hey, he'd be a great guest, And I kind of walked in not knowing that I was about to have what I have. I tell people, we've had some of the most amazing guests, but it's kind of Matt was it for me. It was just so, I was sitting like me and you were sitting, and I was just hearing this guy that I knew as such a happy kid growing up, and he went to the military, and just it changed him and all this thing, and people hide this stuff, and him finally opening up and sharing, and I feel like it did so much for him, and since he's been doing it, but like so many people go through stuff, you don't even know they're going through it.
No, you wouldn't know.
So that's why sometimes I feel more comfortable sharing it with other people who went through that or went through some kind of trauma. You know, even if it's maybe not the same trauma as them, but we all,
Right.
sometimes that trauma, you know, whatever that storm
Trauma's
is,
trauma,
takes
pain
us.
is
Yeah.
pain. I mean, it's, you know, we kind of, I always say we connect through our hardships and through things. I feel that people, you know, when you really know the depths of things that people have been through, it's really what bonds you together. It's not really, you know, your strengths and people who have wonderful things. It's your things that really make you, you feel for that person. You know, that's where the strength is in a relationship.
Yeah, you definitely feel. I feel like we're connected when you know somebody else went through some kind of hardship, some kind of thing. It could be anything. Like I said, we go to Kensington. You see the look in them people's eyes. You know that they lost that hope and they're going through that. But then, you know, a couple weeks ago we were helping tornado victims, and you know, nice Malacca Hill, and they had that same look in their eyes. Like they weren't homeless, but they lost their house to the tornado, and they had that same look I would see on the people in Kensington. That's like when it connected to me. Like, don't matter what the storm is. It could be a real storm. They all have that trauma.
Yeah.
And it can all lead us to horrible, you know.
Yeah.
My trauma led me down a rough road. It leads us to mental health issues, addiction issues, whatever it is. All because, you know, we don't talk about it. We don't open up about it. There's not groups like the one you had.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that stuff's great.
Yeah.
But let's get back to King and your story. So, you know, obviously you started Kings Crusade. King struggled with addiction. Was it a lifelong thing or?
It was for approximately half of his life. It was in, I believe, 1996, because I remember where I was living at the time. He was away on vacation with his girlfriend and was riding a wave runner, and he always was somebody that, you know, was an adrenaline, you know, wanted that rush, wanted to really push the limits and test boundaries. He was always like that, you know. He was always a daredevil. He was the one who was riding his little dirt bike over the neighbors' flower beds and things like that. And, you know, I don't want to say typical because it wasn't, you know, but I mean, that's who he was. And he broke his back, was knocked unconscious, and went to the nurse on duty there at the resort, and they put him on Percocets. And he was like, wow. He was out that night dancing, felt great, you know. Mind you, he was just unconscious that day out on the beach. Thank God, you know, whoever was out there with him saw, and they were able to get him help. But, you know, he didn't want to ruin the rest of his girlfriend's vacation, so he's like, well, I'll just stay on the Percocets a little longer. And when he came home, he was having tingling, numbness in his arms, down his arms. And my sister has always been such a caretaker of everyone in my family and beyond. Her friend, like, she's just amazing. And she immediately, I think she called 911, which, you know, maybe shouldn't have called 911, but that's, you know, what my sister did. And they told her, hey, maybe he shouldn't, you know, keep him there. They came, they got him, they stabilized him on, you know, the slab or whatever, put him in the ambulance, brought him to the hospital. Actually, I think from the one hospital, they airlifted him to another hospital. And here, it's when they diagnosed him with, you know, and I don't remember exactly, but his back, the spine, it was broke. He had all kinds of things wrong with the discs, and they couldn't believe it. So 1996, as we're all aware now, and if you weren't, you know, now anybody who's watching Dope Sick will realize and learn about the history of OxyContin was 1996. So that's exactly what his doctor put him on. And typical story, you know, whatever amount he was using wasn't enough for him to where he was getting it and buying it off the street when he couldn't get it from the pharmacies he was going around to. And around 2004, so that was about 8 years later, I remember my sister calling me one night in the middle of the night, and she was like, oh my God, you know, I'm with King. He's out of his mind. He shaved his head. I don't know who he is. And he told me he did heroin. And, you know, I knew what heroin was, but when you heard it, it just, like, I'll never forget. It just sounded like such a dirty word, such a, oh my God, like, I'm ashamed. I don't want to say this out loud. And he struggled with heroin for the next almost 12 years of his life. He was 49 when he passed away. This Friday, October 29th, will be 5 years, actually.
So you would, I know we even mentioned it yesterday. My family's been in the medical field forever. It mentioned, you know, how they gave me so many pills when I was, and that's what they do, and they don't tell you sometimes. Like, I remember I was in the hospital, and I had no idea. I was like 18. I got in a horrible car accident. They just gave me all this medicine. Right, to help my dad was working there. I was in pain, so they probably gave me as much. I had no idea about it. And then one day, I finally went back to school. I was still in a wheelchair. I was pretty banged up, and I was talking to my principal. I was like, I'm not feeling, I couldn't sleep last night. I had these sweats, and I'm hot and cold. He's like, are you on drugs? I'm like, what are you talking? And he's like, you're going through withdrawal. And I had no idea what it was. Yeah. And, I'm 18. You believe doctors, whatever.
Right.
They got their fancy degrees and
You're supposed to be
fancy
there to help
little coats. And, you're young and naive. And a lot of times that was what you say would lead, goes to heroin. Is that to how King got
he says, if he knew, because he was still alive when they were doing, starting to really figure out that, okay, like, it's not less than 1% of the people become addicted like this drug is, and it was specifically marketed to get people addicted for greed purposes. And he would say, if I knew that I never would have taken it, I don't know, I don't remove responsibility, part of the responsibility of choices he made of doing it, but because I've learned so much, absolutely, it's not the route that should have been. I do believe, nobody ever starts out and says, I want to become addicted. This is what I want to do to my life. Like, they don't think that. So I don't believe at all that, and it's nothing intentionally that he did. It was something that, like you said, you wake up one morning, and I know it's happened to, friends of mine out on the football field, and my son's sports have told me, because now they come on, hey, I was put on Percocet for a dental surgery or whatever, and by the third day, they gave me 5 days prescription, but on the third day when I woke up, I wasn't feeling well. I felt like I needed it, and I gave it to my wife and told her to throw it out. So people can see how slippery a slope it is. And for somebody that has that gene or that genetic makeup where, for my brother, he couldn't stop. And for him to feel better, he needed to fix himself, and he needed to take it to be able to manage his day, raise his kids, so absolutely, I can make sense of what happened and make sense of his addiction, because it's, you're not using and you're not getting high to be high and feel good. Like, you're using and you're, maintaining your habit because you need to just get by your day. You need to attempt to function. And, is it the way to do it? No, but obviously we have a problem in, the world. So it's, he's not the only one that's what you do sometimes.
Your mom said she's so proud of you for keeping your brother's memory alive.
Oh, Mom, I can't believe you actually found a way to get on, and you love.
Thank you for tuning in, Judy. It was amazing hearing you speak the other day. Your words really helped a couple of my friends, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, she was great.
But
she doesn't always come on, but
it's just crazy how you're talking about your brother, and then I had my best friend Andy's mom on in your group yesterday, Kelly. And Andy was like the greatest guy you ever met. Like, I wanted to be in. He's the smartest person I met. He had everything. Like, he bought a brand new Corvette for $100,000. 2 weeks later, he died overdose. Like, he was jacked, but he got me into bodybuilding. Like, you'd look at him and you'd say, that's what, I want to be. And he was so smart, but it didn't matter how smart you were. I just never understood it. Like, I always wish I could there was a potion I could just give people.
Yeah, my brother had literally,
and your brother sounds just like that. They remind me.
He had a genius IQ. Like,
that
like
was a fact. Great brother, great son, uncle.
He was training. Awesome he was training to be a Navy SEAL in 87. Because my mom took my sister and I out to San Diego. He was on the San Diego Naval Base, enrolled in the Navy, and we kind of knew then, like, he was dabbling and stuff back then, and we were so proud because I was like, oh, he's going out, he's going to the Navy, he's going to make his life different, he's going to make something of himself, turn his life around. And we went out to see him, and he said, hey, I'm going to take the test to be, to become a Navy SEAL. And he went in, he was in the BUDS training, and, let me tell you, like my mom spoke about Monday night, there's some strong individuals, not only physically, but mentally. What they take, they break you, they break you. And my brother would cry to my mom, call her, I'm coming home in a box. And guess what, though? He didn't. And he went through the all the underwater training, which is what the BUDS training is. He was dropped for Hell Week wherever he went, who knows, survived Hell Week. I mean, not a lot of people make it through that. And, he got into trouble while he was out there. Somebody told him, hey, take this car, whatever. He says, whatever his side of the story was, it ended up being a stolen car, and there was a police chase, and they gave him a less than honorable discharge. But I'll tell you one thing, and I remember him saying that, they were impressed, like they could not believe the strength. It's not many people who make it through that training. And that was who he was. You could talk to him about any topic. You could bring anything up. He knew and could speak on anything. He was very, very smart, my brother, very intelligent.
I think that's just amazing. I got that from your brother. I've seen it so many other times. I just think that's a great point to get across. Some people are not familiar. They don't realize it affects, man, some of the best people I know. It's affected. It's taken so many amazing people from this world. It's just, there's no potion. You don't know when it's going to hit. Some people go to drugs from tragedies that you don't know, from the doctors, however they get there. And they just, once they get in, don't matter how smart you are, how good looking you are, how talented you are, how good of anything you are, Navy SEAL, it doesn't matter. Sometimes they just can't get out, man. There's so many people who should be here, great people, and they're not. So I love how you continue their message. We try to continue their message. I don't give for hope, because there's times I feel like I shouldn't be here, and I feel kind of honored, and I feel I owe it to all them people. Even my brother, he didn't die from drugs, but he should be here, and I feel like by living my life the way I do and honoring them, that's the only thing we can do,
right,
to keep their name. And that's kind of what you did with Kings Crusade.
That's it.
That's why I love it so much.
Yeah. And people would ask me, King, are you a Catholic? Are you? Oh,
there's Richard Jensen. He was our guest on a couple weeks ago. Amazing story. He was one. They did a ESPN documentary on him. He was amazing.
God, it's so cool.
Hey, Richard, thanks for tuning in, man. He's amazing, guys.
Thank you, Richard.
15 years active drug addiction, 7 years in jail, and then at 34, he decided he wanted to join his college wrestling team because he needed wrestling in his life to get his life together, and he went to the national championship.
Oh my God!
It's an amazing story. He just said nothing worked for him. The rehabs, nothing. He's like, when I wrestled in high school, that was the discipline.
Yeah.
So anyway, I tell people, any way you can get there, do it. There's no, if you can get there, and he went there. Like you're 36, I think, at that time. He's a 19-year
old
kid. He's like, what can I do? And the guy's like,
if it's what's
going to
drive you, then
he's like, and all I heard was there's a chance. And, he won one match. And then the next year, he went on to the national champions, and the movies about him. He has a beat a champion. But, there's so many. He's a guy who could have easily passed away, man.
Yeah.
We went to the Hope Memorial right up the street at the dog park,
Yeah.
I took him.
Timber
He was in
Creek.
town from Oregon, he came all with.
Yeah, Timber Creek Beach Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he insisted he had to be here. He was doing a cross-country tour, and he's like, no way, call me last minute. He's like, I'm not doing Zoom.
I remember you
He's like,
telling me
I was like,
that.
where are you? He's like, I'm in Ohio. I'm going to be in Jersey. I'll be there Wednesday. I'm like, he's like, I got to be there. My message, we got to meet in person. Something's telling me, and he came, and it was amazing. He went around the town. He went to the Rocky Steps. He went to all the police stations, handing out his books, and just, he was here, and you could feel the presence. And then we just happened to go to that park over there, and, we're just sitting there looking at the names of people, and, that could easily, this guy's changing the world with his book and everything. He's doing amazing things, and that easily could have been him, and we were talking about that. It could have been me, and so many people were reading them plaques of family members and friends and people who've been on the shows, relatives, and
sadly, I know a lot of the names on the pavers there. When I walk through there, and I've gone a couple of times, and I went on International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st. I went and I brought my boys because we were able to get a paver this year. It was very hard to get one last year, but this year we did get one for my brother. And just walking and seeing the amount of names that I know, it's just a feeling you can't describe. These people were my friends. I maybe helped this person. It's crazy. How many, and it's something that shouldn't be. It is, it is a disease, but it is something that people don't have to die from. You don't have to lose your life to this, and it really there's a lot of different ways that people find that awakening, when they're ready to make a change. And, it's one of the things I stress, like you said, with Rich and the wrestling. I mean, I always try to tell people, what is a time in your life when you felt good, or something you love to do? What do you have other than, like your job? Do you have a hobby, something you enjoy to do? Because you have to have that, along with having a network and following a program and surrounding yourself with the right people, maybe hitting meetings, like you have to have something for you too. And sometimes, I remember asking my brother, what was a time in your life when you were happy? Where did you feel that you excelled? And for him, it was having structure. And he said the Navy, because he knew, I'm up at 5 o'clock. I have this, and whatever time at 7. And
Matt's a Navy
there's
guy,
so
too.
many. And there's a lot of people that I talk
That's
to
just
too.
like wrestling. That's what, Richard kind of said the same thing, that structure.
And they do. And a lot of people that I find that I talk to struggling with addiction, the structure is what they need, because it's nice to have downtime, but too much downtime, you're in your head, you're whatever, you don't want to have too much, you don't want to be overwhelmed, but you have to have some kind of structure. Absolutely.
Yeah, like people, like I tell people, there's no certain place, man. People can get their life together from whatever. Like me, I always say, like, prison saved my life. My brother died, his mysterious death. It just, I just couldn't take it at the time. I was a pro wrestler. I had everything. I was on my way to all my dreams, everything I ever wanted, and they all got taken away, man, right away. Like I went deep. My mental health just broke within that year. Just dealing, it just wasn't the death. It was a crazy story, and we just couldn't get answers. And at that time, I just wanted answers, and I didn't have answers. It just set me down like a dark road, and I woke up every day and I knew something was wrong. I knew I couldn't stop it. I was calling people, begging, help me. Nobody knew, they're like, help you. How do I help you? What, I get a Band-Aid, or like, I don't know, but something's not going, it's gonna end real bad. I need help. And I feel like if I had somebody there who, I lost my brother, whatever, I might have listened to them. But these people would send me to doctors, and I'd sit there and, I'd leave, because so what the hell do I want to talk to some guy for? Some old guy who has a fancy degree, what's he going to know about what I'm going through? And, it just got worse and worse. And eventually, you just kind of realize, at the time, I just thought that was, everything. And I didn't get answers. I was just, this is life, man. It's over. Just prepared for the end. And then I got locked up instead. And getting there, that kind of like being in maximum security jail saved my life. I tell people it's the greatest thing that ever happened. I was almost relieved.
A lot of people's
I was almost like relieved. I was finally away from the madness that my life became.
Yeah.
And that's, that's when my life started to get back together. I was able to, take some time to really think about his death, and just realize, there's nothing I could do about the unanswered questions. And I just made a promise then that if I got through this, which didn't look good, I was gonna, go out and help people, just so nobody else had to feel how I felt when I was going through that, when I was making them calls, when I was just hopeless. So I knew I couldn't say, I couldn't go back and undo what I had done and all the stuff I went. But if I could go back, and maybe one person going through that had somebody like me answer the phone instead of people sending them to doctors, and that was kind of my, I made that promise that didn't think it was ever, And then I was like, man, I got to be a man of my word, and it's kind of Hungry for Hope started. But my brother, you know how it is, losing your brother. You can cause people to do great things or bad things. For me, it was kind of both. It took me down the dark road, and then took me back down the great road. But people handle everything different, as you know.
I knew the day, sadly, when my brother passed, he was waiting for treatment because he really didn't have insurance. He went between living. He was with our mom for a while, and then he was in Florida. He went back and forth, and then the end of 2012, he came back. He lived with me and my husband at the time for about 9 months, and my boys were young at the time. I put them in a bedroom together, gave the other bedroom to my brother, and, watched the downfall. And as my sister and I said, we really felt that the last few years that he was here in Jersey were some of the darkest days. A lot of people, somebody once termed it to my sister as his, the end stage of addiction. And absolutely, he went from being in my house to my sister's once in a while. He was in hotels up and down Route 73, and I would bring him food. I would pick him up and drive him everywhere. I took care of all his medical bills and watched him in and out of hospitals. And You name it, it just was, it just was something that you don't really have, well, not really have, there is no rule book. You don't know what to do, and you only know what you know at the time. And, did I always do the right thing? No. Did I hand him money when I shouldn't have? Yeah. Did I let him in the house and should have told him every time he came out of treatment that, we need to find you sober living, or we need to get you, on your own and whatever, instead of still keep rescuing him. And, I don't know. You have to kind of accept that what was meant to be was meant to be. And his life, for some reason, was meant to be one of them, sadly, that was lost from the disease. But his last 30 days, because he was indigent, we were trying to get him help, because my sister said, you can't stay here, but fine, I'll let you here temporarily. And somehow a church had managed to find him a treatment center out in Florida somewhere that was going to take him, but he had to wait. So November 2nd, I believe it was, he was supposed to leave for treatment. And the night of October 28th, they called him and they said, how are you doing, King? We're getting ready for you in another few days. How's everything going? And he said, oh, good. I'm actually 30 days clean today. And they said to him, well, you don't want to tell them that. And, I get it, because now primarily Kings Crusade helps people medicate and indigent. And if you're not currently using, even if you have drugs out of your system for a day or two, they don't take you, because they don't consider, on the scale of how they medically assess people now, you can't get into a detox. So in my mind, and learning what I did through the years of how the mind of someone addicted operates, for him, it meant I can go get high again, and sadly, for however he managed to get out of my sister's house, and as we all know, we can't keep an eye, we can't control it. If we're not in charge of their decisions, we're only in charge of ourselves. Even though back then, sure, did we think we could control it, watch him when he stayed with me. I was happy seeing him in the bedroom and waking up and checking in, he was there. Like, I felt I was saving him,
Right.
But my sister was waiting for him in the morning, October 29th. They were going to go up to Peddler's Village, and she knew the house was silent, but I guess she didn't really want it. You never think that. And she just said, maybe he's sleeping, maybe he fell asleep. Well, he never slept, so you don't sleep. So she went up in the room, and, my brother was there. So my sister found my brother, passed away in one of her bedrooms. So it's something she has to live with, that vision. And, I got the phone call. I was at my son's soccer game and had to pull over to the side of the road. And, I got out of the car because I didn't want my son to hear. And, I remember I was in somebody's driveway and I fell to my knees, and a person came out, and I just kind of, was saying, I'm okay, I'm okay. Well, looking back now, they probably weren't worried about me. They're probably like, what is this person doing in my driveway, whatever. But here I had just learned, and even though my brother-in-law had a hard time saying the words, I knew from the words he was saying that my brother was gone. So, from that day on, I'll never forget being at my sister's house. My brother was still upstairs because we had to wait for, the medical examiner or coroner to come and take him. And my family actually owns a funeral business my whole life, so my aunt and my uncle had come, and I knew even then that I had to do something, that his death was not going to be another number. He wasn't going to be a statistic. He wasn't going to be the red dot that marked the death in Burlington County that year. I needed to do something, and we needed to do something, and that's basically how Kings Crusade came to be. My sister and I co-founded together.
So you knew, I know how to call, man. I was actually the first one to get the call when my brother died. It was just, I don't know why they picked me. It was just, it was from Cambodia, and my number they somehow got, and I was walking into, a wrestling arena in West Virginia. I just drove 7 hours, I'm there, I got my wrestling stuff on, I'm doing pro wrestling, I'm excited, this is like a big match for me. I talked to him, he was all excited, I'm getting up the steps. As soon as I get to the top of the steps, the promoter's coming out, paying me money to come out there, and I get the call. And it was a weird number, like 0, not, a big number. Cambodia, I don't know nothing about it. I don't want to know anything. But I answered it real quick, and that's when I got the news, and I didn't make it to the door. I dropped to my knees like you. And first I punched the glass, and it was anger, and then I just dropped, and it was raining out, and I walked right back to my car, and I had to tell family and friends, and I had to drive 7 hours back home, finding out, I lost my best friend, and I was wearing my wrestling tights, but it was just that rain, it was just surreal, and but I knew I was like, I'm gonna get through this, people die, and I was ready to do it, and then I didn't know all the stuff that was going to come after, and all that stuff. I just wasn't ready to handle that. The mess that came after. In the beginning, I had that kind of feel like I'm going to do something to honor his name, and then you just get caught up in it. When it became the mystery, and on the paper and everything, it just sent me down a dark road. But then when I finally did get out, I had that same thing that you and your sister had. I was like, I got to do something. It was one of the only things that kept me going. Like I got to do it for him. I didn't want to do it for myself at the time. I hated myself. I just wasn't a good person, I thought. So if I couldn't do it for myself, I had to do it for him because he was worth it. And that's what drives me every day. I'm sure that drives you with your Kings Crusade to get up a little earlier, to try a little harder because he doesn't get that opportunity.
No, and I mean it definitely. It's all day, every day. It's, nights, it's weekends, it's holidays, it's through whatever I'm doing with my kids. If I'm at a sports game and it's a Sunday night, it doesn't matter. And I always tell people, if you don't get me, if I don't answer, just text me. So we started in 2017. My sister has since started another venture on her own. So I've kind of just been, spearheading everything for the last 4 years, taking phone calls from people struggling, phone calls from the families who need help, who need support, who kind of need resources, the same thing. And I guess it's how I kind of fell into getting a lot of just, the underserved, the Medicaid, the indigent, because it's easier today than it was years ago to get people into treatment, even if, and I tell people, I just had a call tonight from a mom, and I said, look, it doesn't matter. I just need your daughter to be willing. It doesn't matter. She's indigent. I don't care. She's homeless. I don't care that she, I just need her to call me and tell me she's willing. I'll help her, and this is basically the plan. But what I told the mom and what I do is I try to let them know that, it's a family disease. You're all affected, and that the mom has to, attempt to, as best she can, step away with love, pray to God that her daughter is in God's hands and that he will protect her when the mom can, and that the mom really needs to get strong, because in order for her to continue to do and fight and do whatever when her daughter is struggling and when her daughter decides to get better, is that she needs to be strong. She's raising her daughter's daughter, and we need to all take care of ourselves. We can't get lost, which you do. You get lost in their addiction and addicted to that and helping them. And it's very important that the family takes care of themselves, find some kind of support. I'm real big on family support groups so that you can hear from other people going through what you're going through, hear also from their family members that are in recovery, what they did, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and just know that they're not alone. So, all day it's phone calls from families, phone calls from people who need help. I do have a peer certification, and that's another, like you said, as far as people struggling, do they relate to, going to a doctor, going to a therapist? They want to hear from somebody who has first, hands-on lived experience, or somebody like me who's lived it as a family member and who's helped hundreds and hundreds of people annually, talked to hundreds and hundreds of people annually, that I understand, and most people are comfortable talking to me. They tell me everything, and, we go from there, no judgment. Let's go. Let's find you help. Let's make a plan. Let's see what you're going to do afterwards. If you're going to maintain and continue some more treatment, if you're going to go to sober living so that you can be surrounded by a network of people. I'm donation based. I don't receive any kind of funding. So everything that we do, that we give, generally, I've been able to maintain about a $65,000 intake every year. This year, I don't know, but even through COVID, I had people supporting me, raising, money. Sadly, when people pass away, a way to honor them is to give to Kings Crusade because we can give the next struggling person a chance. I can help people with the sober living move-in fees. If they don't have a ride to treatment, I'll find somebody that is one of my drivers and in recovery that can take them for them. You know, people who need food, little things. I love to surprise people, you know. Let's have a fun little contest. I'm going to get you a Starbucks card. I'm going to, if I'm out with you, I'm going to treat you to food or wherever we are. You know, it's just, is what I do that makes me happy. And the fact that Kings Crusade just has continued to grow and maintain through donations to pretty much be able to say yes to everybody is amazing.
I just want to share one of the comments Richard, who we had on the show. He said, because of people like you, you know, they were the people he found when he got a job. He got 18 years sober. Like I said, he had the Emmy. They made a documentary. He said, because of people like you, he just wanted to thank you. And he said, you're a powerful story. You're really changing lives and finding the characters. Share this. Thank you. You're a superhero. I'm just, you know, reading. Sue introduced me. This is Melissa. Sue introduced me to a family support group in April, which started my detachment from my son's father. She's even helped in the past with rehab resources for him. Forever grateful for someone who I only met before. The family goes through a lot too. Sue, your work is amazing. Be a Champion Life wants to send a autographed autobiography book to Susan. Oh, Wingador says hi. 5-time wing ball champion. You like wings? Thanks for tuning in, Bill. Our guest last week loved you. She might be a fan too. Our guest went nuts last week when he's like, "Oh, Wingador." The guy's from Louisville. He's like, "I'm getting a Wingador sauce." I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's like a friend of the show. He's on the. Can't get him out of here. So he's a great dude. But yeah, all these people are just tuning in. Ann is listening. She said, "So proud of your amazing sister." Hey, Ann. Great to see you on Zoom yesterday. It was a great scene. Hearing Judy too. Judy sharing great stuff. It's just. You know, I feel like a lot of these people have gone through stuff that, like we mentioned so many times, people just feel, even when we have guests on the show and stuff, they tell me they're like, I felt a lot more comfortable sharing with you, you know, because especially they know, you know, it don't have to be the same trauma, but they know you went through some crazy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's good having real crazy shit because they're like, oh, I can't be as crazy as that. I'm going to tell my story and look normal. I get that all the time. I look at people, I'm like, you're just like, I can't look that bad. And I'm just
hear
like,
some crazy
I think that's why sometimes we get good interviews because they're just like, I'm bad, but it's not going to be as bad as Donnie, you know, so. Then, you know, that's good. You know, if I need to be whatever it takes for them to.
So I got a question for you. So about a couple of weeks ago, it was just Donnie and I in here. We were talking about how doctors basically anymore, they're giving people pills to cover their problems without actually really treating them anymore. And that's physical and mental. I mean, so, and we said it's like how many milligrams to happiness. So when you're treating someone afterwards, there's still going to be that trauma that was covered up with pills. How would you help someone afterwards? Say it's mental health. Okay, they've been pumping you full of, you know, Zoloft or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, well, can't take that anymore, and that problem is still there. You just pulled the Band-Aid off the bullet wound. What do I do now?
Mental health is definitely another huge epidemic. You know, it's one that has a very large stigma too, you know, as big as addiction. I mean, mental health, a lot of times it's hand in hand with substance abuse. But mental health is definitely, there's still a stigma to it that people don't want to talk about their depression or talk about bipolar. People feel some type of way that they should be stronger. And there's a lot of times I have conversations with people that have diagnosed, you know, and it can be something as mild as a depression or what have you, but they don't want to take medication. Now for the people that truly do, you know, so the parent I was talking to today was telling me and describing her daughter and saying, you know, she was saying she has mental health. I said, well, you know, one thing I like to ask them is, do they have an actual mental health diagnosis? Are they bipolar? Like, what is the diagnosis? And she said no. So sometimes you don't, if it really is just addiction and substance abuse, yes, you can do crazy things. You can be, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, there was a joke. My sister once, my brother was missing, and my sister was like, we got to go to the police department. We got to put a missing persons report. So they asked, does he have any mental illness? So my sister said he's bipolar. I said, he's not bipolar. Like, he's not bipolar. Like, he's got a really bad addiction. Like, he's not bipolar. And he wasn't. So, you know, it's not, I don't like when I hear people throw it around either, that because, but absolutely huge number of people that are. And absolutely. They need to be treated for such. So there are facilities that are dual diagnosis facilities. If they can get, again, I help them medicate an indigent. It's very hard because insurance dictates your treatment. So even if somebody needs longer than a 30-day or something mental health, the chances of them getting it, not sure. So a lot of times they have to maintain through an IOP or something, some kind of, if it's a doctor, therapist, to maintain. Absolutely. If you have a diagnosis of a legit mental health disorder, you need to be on some type of medication, because when it's not treated, then that's when you start self-medicating, doing the wrong thing. So it really is finding who the reputable people are, who the people that can maintain and understand that this is a person with a substance abuse problem also, to make sure that they're giving, the quote unquote proper medication for them. They do need to be maintained on it. People who are taking things that maybe they don't need or abusing their medications, hopefully they go to treatment, they come out, and again, getting surrounded with the right people, maintaining some kind of help treatment afterwards. They can learn, the proper, through somebody that they're treating with them, maybe gets them properly adjusted, that it's treating their issue so that they feel just well enough to still be able to maintain, some normalcy in life. Absolutely. I don't know that anybody would take them off their medications, 100%, especially like I see a lot of people bipolar, like, they need something. They absolutely need it. Right. But, you can tell if somebody is misusing it or whatever. And sometimes, again, it's a problem that goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So has to absolutely be done. The mom today, she said, oh, well, I call the doctor, whatever, tell them about my daughter. But they say, well, they, the doctor just said, I don't know that I can help you. She sounds like she needs whatever. Like nobody will talk to her about the daughter's substance abuse problem or that her daughter has an addiction problem. So where I find my strength is that a lot of times I will talk to the parents, talk to the loved ones, real talk about addiction, what do I believe could be happening, what I want them to look for. I ask them a lot of questions so I understand, and give them suggestions, because, I remember years ago going to Al-Anon or going to Nor-Anon and trying to talk about my brother, because I wanted to be surrounded by people, and, you're not really allowed to share in their ideas. They just want you, well, if people want to meet you afterwards and talk, people struggling with a loved one in addiction, you want to know, I need answers. And of course, I don't have the exact answers for you. I don't, but I can give you a lot of suggestions from experience and people I've helped to help you, because that's what people want. They want the real,
yeah. Kind of what Kings Crusade, I want to get on that. When we have the time King passed in 2016. You started Kings Crusade in 2017, and here we are in 2021, and it's still basically King's the one who's changing these lives. His memory, just like with Hungry for Hope, was inspired by my brother. What King inspired you to do, and your sister co-founding it. It's saving life. So I just want to hear some of what is Kings Crusade doing? Tell us a little about, I know you're in the community all the time. You're doing dodgeball tournaments or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell us a little.
Yeah, we do. So, I try to do a lot of different things for the recovery community, because that is what my big draw is. I want to let you know that there's other people who understand what you're going through, other people who have been through what you've gone through, and they can do it.
Your website up there, it's
yes, that's my website.
From kingscrusade.org?
Yes. So
there
I
you guys
do
are, your mom. I love the pictures of your mom, man, and King.
Yeah. I do an annual dodgeball tournament because I like to bring everybody out, people in recovery, sober homes, treatment centers, come out, listen to music, have... I edited that. That doesn't look right. Come out, have fun. Yeah, I did try to do something on there today. I did that. But, I love to do things.
I didn't tell them that. They brought it up. They're pretty impressive.
Thank you. I get involved if there's softball leagues, if there's flag football tournaments, which there's one coming up. One of the treatment centers is doing it. Kings Crusade has a team. I do a lot of things with the women.
You post that or something?
Yeah. So we do that. I do stuff for women. I get involved in a family group. I do my grief group. I'm partnerships with my Burlington County
Donations
Prosecutor's
are so
Department.
important. I'm just saying one in the comments. They
Yeah.
said donations. You can go on
yeah.
kingscrusade.org for donations if people
Yeah.
are watching and they want to help.
Yeah, kingscrusade.org.
Sue, you're
is all
amazing.
the
You help so
ways.
many. From Rita Hart.
Hi, Rita.
Are you related to me, Rita?
She's Rita. One of my girls. I call them all my girls, my guys, my moms. I know they're really not, but they feel like it. And I know that we all, have that connection. And yeah, so I love to do anything that's, recovery related to bring everybody out. Anybody who I help, I direct them to my support page so that they can stay in touch. If we do an outreach, and it's an outreach in Camden with the Straight to Treatment program, which is through the police departments, come in certain days of the week, get the help you need. Kings Crusade will get them transportation, but we also do outreaches. And anybody who has, a decent amount of time in recovery that wants to start giving back, come out, come do outreach. Be a part of Kings Crusade, because I'm a volunteer for my own nonprofit. People who want to come out and help me with calls, or who drive for me because they're going to give that person going to treatment a one-on-one talk of where they were and what helped them. And I give to them, so I pay them because I appreciate it. So it's we're all volunteers, and I need everyone to stay involved and keep this thing going, keep the momentum going.
No, one thing, we always, the show, around my brother dying, that's how this came, this Hungry for Hope and the nonprofit and everything. And, I talk about my struggles after he died and everything. But you made this, just a year after your brother's death. Just anybody listening going through the death of a loved one, how was it? How were you able to get it all together, you and your sister, and able to create something, with it so fresh and, my situation was just out of control. There's a lot to do with the circumstances, but still, it took me years and years. How was it going through that? Anybody going through it right now, would you like to say anything to them, and just take us through that if you don't mind?
Yeah. So, definitely it's, anybody grieving, anybody who's lost someone, and we just talked about this Monday night, that when it hits, it hits. I could be in the car and hear a song. I could hit a curb with my back right tire, which I did all the time with my brother in the car, and he'd be like, Jesus Christ. So every time I hit a curb, I kind of smile. And then when I smile, sparks the little tear. And, or a couple times just, in my house, I could be cooking a food. It doesn't mean, you never know. Anything can spark that feeling. So even in the early stages, maybe it was just the pain that drove us to keep doing it. And one thing my brother said, and I think we have the quote somewhere, and one of my moms, Diane, always says it, if you need something done, go to my sisters. My brother would send people to us to help them. He would tell them, reach out to my sisters. My sister will help. And, I hear that, I hear that. And I know that I can make a difference. And when people are driving in a car, and my friend today sent me a photo of King's Liquor Store. I have people that pass tractor trailers with the name King. Somebody who saw King on a license plate. His name is known. People know his name. And he used to get teased for his name, and I would tell him what a great name it is. And now, King, he'll forever be known. His name will be spoken, and his name will help save lives. And that's what keeps me motivated. And you allow yourself to feel down, and you allow yourself to cry, and then you pick yourself back up again, because I have a job to do, and I've people who need me, in his name, people who need me, and in his name, I'm going to give to people and keep it going. And, I don't know. I guess it's just that you fight through it. You fight through it, and you lean on other people.
Yeah, I think we were, and Judy just said hi. She's a great guest. She's a big fan of you. She mentioned you all the time.
Judy,
her son Christian, her son Gabe was on the show. They're awesome people.
Yeah, Gabe's with the wrestling too.
Yeah,
the wrestler,
yeah, he trained at the same facility as me, and he was an awesome guest.
Yeah.
But we were talking, I think, on Monday about people say, the biggest thing, I think I was talking to Matt about it too. People say it's going to get easier. And I remember wanting to fight everybody, because I was calling people every week. I thought you said it's going to get easier. It never gets easier. I think even today's maybe worse than when it happened, but we learn that's the difference now. I learned to take that, instead of making negative, I take it and do positive. Like I said, we can take the worst thing in our life that caused us the most trauma, take that same thing and have it cause the best times. That's the wonderful thing about that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, sometimes maybe there's something bigger than me. Maybe it happened so I could help somebody, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's all we can think. But you know, I just know people say that a lot. They're just waiting for when's it going to get better. It's not going to get better. You're going to learn to live with it. I feel like personally.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, people, it doesn't matter if it's a year, 2 years. You know, this Friday, like I said, is 5 years. I mean, I can't believe it's 5 years. I can't. And it doesn't. You know, like they say, it doesn't get easier. It gets different. You know, the pain is still there. You feel it. You learn to live with it because you have to. And you know, I have 2 children to raise. You know, I'm divorced now, and so I have to go on. You know, other parents who are raising their children, you know, grandchildren, if they've lost a child as child, you know, they have to go on for their children's children, and you know, or they have other children. They have to. You know, how they do it every day. I always say, as a mom, I don't know how somebody goes on every day after losing a child. I don't. But you have to.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you got to do for something bigger than you. You know, if you can't do it for yourself, just do it for anything. Somebody bigger. Like sometimes I do it for the people who I know are struggling. You know, so they can see, because they see me fail and they're like, oh, he did it. You know, then I can fail. They might think, but they say, hey, he went through what I went through, and you know, he's doing all right. Maybe that will give them hope. So I feel like I'm doing a disservice. But getting back to the hope part, before we get out of here, I got to ask you a question. You know, Hungry for Hope, it's all based on hope. You know, I lost that hope. My brother passed when Matt was going through his struggles. He lost it, and we just try to give hope to the hopeless. What does hope mean to you, Suzanne?
What does hope mean to me? Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to have a really big, great answer for that. What does hope mean to me? Hope. Because in the world that I live in, hope is something that you can't lose sight of. You have to know that there is hope. A lot of times the people that I help are hopeless. They don't see a way out. They don't see a different way of life. And by showing them, and by other people in recovery who are living it every day, spreading the word, they put their faces on every day and they write, you know, recovery is possible, and they put how long in recovery they are, or they show a before and after picture and they say the life that they have now. And this person says, well, geez, this is what I am. They were once homeless too, or they did it. Like, there's hope, you know, the saying that people put out there, hold on, pain ends. You know, that's hope. But keep hope. Believe that there's hope. Believe there's hope for you. You know, no one is hopeless, even though you feel it. Hope. And we can all hope that one day some of this will get a little better, more awareness, more breaking the stigma, more lives being saved, more, you know, practices being different, whether it's medication, treatment, you know, insurances, whatever. Everyone have hope for every part of the addiction world to get better. That's it.
I love it. That was you thought that? You write it down before you get here?
No.
You know, I try to do the show. I try to do it like, you know, we don't write questions down. I feel like sometimes it's like just from the heart are the best. The best thing is just raw emotion. And you can tell when people are just speaking raw emotions. You get better answers, I feel like. Also, Kelly just commented, Matt's wife, and she just wanted to say, our family wouldn't be where we were today if it wasn't for Kings Crusade. My boys get to grow up with their best uncle now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had some great things. Just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Your mom, Judy, and Kelly, everybody.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anything
Thank
you want to leave everybody with
in.
before we get you out of here?
Oh, well, what do I want to leave everybody with? I want to say thank you all, whether it's somebody I've helped, a family I've helped who, even if you've lost a loved one, anybody struggling who's out there, Kings Crusade is here, and all of the people, the other nonprofits, the other amazing people and treatment centers and sober houses, anybody, advocates, volunteers, friends in recovery. I have a large network. I have an amazing support group. I don't do it alone. I take it, hear what I need to hear, and then I go about. So if you need help, always here 24/7. Anybody, again, I start to say who I've helped, who's touched my life, anybody who's tuned in, you've all just enriched my life. This wasn't something I ever set out to do, something I was faced with through a tragedy, and just know that you all have touched my life, and I'm just a mom doing my thing. Really, it's how I see myself. I'm a mom first and foremost, and somebody that just wants to pay back what I once struggled with and wanted answers for and needed help. And I hope that I can continue to be that means for the community. That's all. Thank you.
Awesome. I want to thank you. I also want to thank your sister and your mom. They've been awesome through all this.
Yes.
They're strong people. I can relate to a lot of the stuff you guys went through, and they're so strong and so brave. Everything you guys went through and are doing. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for Kings Crusade, for helping all these people.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
No problem. And Hungry for Hope Nation, thank you for tuning in. Matt, we out of here?
We're out of here.
See you next week.
All right.
Thank you.